Joining us now on the program, as she does each and every week, usually on a Thursday, this time around on a Wednesday, to talk about a variety of different mental health subjects that we are focusing on at certain times of the year, or just across the board, is Carrie Krawiec, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Carrie, thanks for being with us today.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. It's beginning of a new year, and with that, a lot of people begin the year focusing on new goals or New Year's resolutions, as many will make. But it's common that those new goals or resolutions can fall through quite quickly. In fact, there's a phenomenon known as Quitter's Day, which is usually marked as the second Friday in the month of January, where it's common for a lot of these particularly New Year's resolutions to go to the wayside, to fall through, and frankly, to be given up on. So first off, what are some of the differences between setting a long-term goal necessarily versus a New Year's resolution? And how do we disseminate between how do we decipher between which ones are effective and which ones maybe aren't effective?
Sure. Well, the research really supports that people who set like vague, broad goals are most likely to fail them. And often when we hear people's resolutions, they sound pretty much the same every year: lose weight, save money. It's these very big goals that are hard to achieve. Something to really do to make it more adaptive would be to take those big goals and then really break down what are the steps that go into achieving it, and picking maybe one or two of those, one to focus on each month. So if your big goal is lose weight, you may just start with walk daily as a goal, and that would be much more likely to be achieved for a number of reasons. One, you could track it. You could catch yourself every day. Losing weight, something like that, might not be the same every day. Things go up and down in our body, whatever happens, and so you may have these ebbs and flows. But if it was something really behavioral that you could do, you could really support and encourage yourself along the way and measure your success that way, and you adopting a healthy behavior instead of reaching a big goal, which you're not likely to do in the first 2 weeks of the year.
So then why do we do this? Why do we have a tendency to begin the new year making these New Year's resolutions, setting these big goals that you're not going to accomplish in a couple of weeks, you're not going to accomplish maybe even in that entire calendar year? What is it about just the way that us humans are wired that makes us, clean the slate at the beginning of the year, and while doing that and, taking the weight off our shoulders from the year before and starting anew as we go into a new year, put all that pressure on ourselves that's frankly unrealistic, instead of maybe taking a more measured approach to it, like you said, and setting those smaller goals?
I think part of it is so funny that you mentioned this, because one of the things you're really talking about is social norms. Now, I don't know the history of resolutions, or, where they are in terms of certain cultures or religions where it comes to maybe doing something like this. I don't know the origins of resolutions, but what you touch on is that there is a social norm about resolutions. So around this time of year, we're talking about it, we're hearing about it, we're seeing commercials about it. So it's sort of all around us that this is sort of a thing we do, yet we haven't really gotten very educated on how to do it. And it's ironic you mentioned this, because there is just some recent research about this, that one way to achieve a resolution, of course, is good old fashioned willpower. If you say you're not going to do something, you want to quit smoking, you're just going to quit cold turkey, and that's your plan, is not very effective, compared to having a norm about it. So being a part of a community, being connected with other people, having some shared set of rules, like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we're doing, is actually more likely to achieve success. So they took college professors in a classroom, and they told their class, they don't want students to be using their cell phones while the lecture is happening. So one classroom, they said, make your own plan for how you're going to take care of your screen behavior, and then attend this class. And in the other class, they said, no screens allowed. We're not doing that here. And in that class, there was less temptation. There was more connection. There was more sort of agreement among everybody about what they were doing and how, instead of leaving everybody to their own devices, quite literally devices, just didn't work at all.
So as people are setting these goals, Carrie, and they're putting these resolutions, so to speak, together, and following your suggestions and suggestions of other professionals and others that are used to working with people through achieving some of their goals. What should they be doing, and what should they be looking for as they're setting those smaller goals to set themselves up for achieving incrementally toward those macro goals, of course, with it being a different situation for each person and the way that they behave in their daily lives.
So I think one thing too is, you don't have to start at the start of the year, and at any point
Yeah.
you want to start, there's a time, but there is, like you said, there's sort of the pre-planning phase of starting a goal. So setting yourself up for success is going to look like, right, what things do you need in place? We've already told you a few things today: making small behavioral goals, being able to measure and track them daily, connecting with a group of other like-minded people or like behaviored people, taking the stuff that's tempting out of your home or around your space, so it's like, right, if you're gonna give up drinking for January, you're probably gonna have to cancel your happy hour plans. Trying to go and put yourself in that environment is not going to really be successful. You're gonna have to just be really mindful about what you're doing, and think about that in advance. What will I need in terms of people, places, things to support the goal that I've set? Take your big goal, come up with some smaller goals. What are the tiny steps to achieve it? Pick one or two to start. Follow yourself over the next couple weeks, and then consider adding another step. Like we said before with the lose weight, start with walking daily. If you're successful through this month, then add something else, like removing a certain dietary item or something. Do it. Consider, once you get successful, adding a micro resolution for each month as opposed to one big vague resolution for the year.
So often a lot of these goals, or these New Year's resolutions do surround our health or our bodies, or superficial reasons. And people want to go and be more active. They want to go to the gym. And I heard recently on some clip I had seen somewhere on social media, and it was really interesting piece of advice that, instead of making the goal that I'm going to work out 5 times a week, make the goal that I'm simply going to go to the facility, to the
Yeah.
gym, or wherever you were going, to the park, going outside, or wherever you're going to be going for your fitness regime 5 times a week. Because if you're there, well, what else am I going to do? I might as well, walk or walk on a treadmill or bike, or, lift some weights for a little bit and test things out, figure out what I'm going to do. And you'll gradually get more comfortable. And it's so interesting to take that angle, because we do see so often that in that second week, that second Friday, which is known as quote unquote quitter's day, that these goals that are often, as we have talked about ad nauseum today, so far-fetched and so big and so lofty and so pressure-packed, fall apart. What is it about that particular timeline, that second week, 2-3 weeks into the year, or 2-3 weeks after, in this case, you're setting these goals, and they're maybe not working out exactly how you see that leads us to throw them away altogether instead of maybe starting over or refocusing them?
Sure, I love this idea of, troubleshooting. So when I talk about parenting or other different topics, we talk about behavior change, right? When the steps are too big to achieve and then there's failure, we often give up. Really, that's an opportunity to just make the steps smaller, and to take little tinier steps to that next thing. So you're absolutely right. Like, for one person, the motivation to go to the gym may not be the issue, and that step is very easy breezy for them. But for another person, making that a part of their routine is the first step. And if they can do that part, then they add the next teeniest step, So it's like, what needs to happen in the schedule, what needs to happen in the day. It might need to be troubleshot. So yeah, I think about 2 weeks, what happens is, it is a time where our goals have failed because we didn't plan or tweak them as we needed to. It's really an opportunity to make those tweaks. Okay, what was the next smallest objective I could do under the one I tried? Because the one I tried was too big and I missed it. Let's try the next smaller one and get some traction there before we add the next layer to our goal.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec on today's edition of the Megacast, a therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. You can find more information and get in contact with the Birmingham Maple Clinic at birminghammaple.com, or by calling them 248-646-6659, 248-646-6659, for more information. And Carrie, how important is there, or how big of a factor can it play in achieving some of these goals, whether it be step by step or those macro goals that you're setting at the beginning of the year or any time, to involve other people in those steps that you're taking, to be asking for help, or just someone that may occasionally check in on you on your goals and you check in on them for theirs? How important can that aspect of help be in getting you from A to Z on these goals?
So important. The word we use for that is called accountability. But when we've revealed our goals, we've made ourselves really vulnerable. We've opened someone up
Yeah.
into something. There's intimacy there, and that connection is so important. We also feel like we don't want to feel guilt, because that guilt can contribute to shame and maybe cause some negative feelings associated with our goals. But when we feel connected and supported, our stress actually goes down. Someone else may be able to offer some problem solving skills. This thing you tried isn't working. We've tried the same goal every year, save money for however many years, and that one's not working. Let's try something different. Let's look at it. Sometimes a helpful set of eyes can say, hey, look, I think maybe this might be the goal to try for you, and here's how you can do it, and here's how I can be helpful to you. Therapists are certainly exceptionally helpful that way too, to come up with behavior goals, to offer weekly and routinely checking in, to really be that supportive voice if you don't feel like you have someone else who you can trust with that information. And certainly addressing any of the underlying causes, if we have sort of addictive behavior or avoidant behavior, or things that are perhaps interfering with our ability to connect with our goals and be successful with our goals. A therapist would really be helpful to reveal those things and work through them and past them.
You can get in contact with the professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic and involve a therapist maybe in helping you along the way to your goals this year at the Birmingham Maple Clinic's website, birminghammaple.com, or send them an email, info@birminghammaple.com. Call them 248-646-6659 for more information. Carrie, before we let you go, anything else that you believe would be helpful for our audience to consider as they're thinking about their goals, as they're working towards some of their New Year's resolutions for 2023 that we maybe haven't discussed yet today?
I sort of mentioned it before, but the research really says that people who set these broad goals are more likely to become depressed as a result of not reaching them. And people who are depressed are more likely to set these broad goals. So really, the difference that makes the difference is thinking, like we said, moving from the macro goal. Take the macro goal, but you can do it different ways. Either come up, like, again, with a small daily goal. I can say with certainty the only New Year's resolution I've ever been successful with was when I decided to start taking the stairs at my workplace. And just taking the stairs daily didn't necessarily yield, weight loss or overall health, but it's certainly a healthy behavior that I said, hey, I'm going to do this every day. And now I do. So that small is what we're talking about to be successful, and to prevent the incidence of, other contributing mental illnesses as a result. You can really insulate yourself from becoming further depressed by just thinking very small, daily, and actionable steps.
Carrie, we appreciate you joining us and giving us some insight into ways that we can better approach maybe our New Year's resolutions or goals that we set throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.